welcome to Audit and Finance Committee for Friday, June 18th, 21. We have a busy agenda here today. Linda Beata is our Vice President of Finance. She's going to be talking about a lot of things today. I want to move around one thing on the agenda. I want to bring up our insurance expert, John Maloff, to talk about the ITC insurance renewals. John, welcome.
Well, thank you. I'll be really fast and quick and easy.
Fast and quick.
Yeah, not cheaper. So I got it actually. Okay. Yeah. Transportation Center's property and liability package policy is effective 7/1/21. This is separate from our self-insured program. In this program, we actually have first dollar coverage. For last year's cost.
We all know where the intermodal transportation center is that we're talking about.
Talking the train station.
Train and bus station.
And bus station.
Walsh Regional Transportation Center.
Right. Okay, that's the one. And just a little cheat sheet that you have comparing the costs for the upcoming year to last year, and Travelers is the insurance carrier. They were last year. They had the best program for us this year. Last year was $95,506. This year it's $102,629. The building and contents limits have been increased in accordance with inflation, basically for replacement cost. Our rental income is up a little, but our parking receipts are down a little. Also included in the contract is coverage called Garage Keeper's Legal Liability, which we're required to provide, and that's comprehensive and collision coverage for the vehicles that are parked in our lots. The claims are $250 for comprehensive, $500 for collision, and all the rest of the property claims are $2,500 per claim. At the end of the policy, the insurance carrier will audit our revenues, adjust the premiums accordingly. If we're too high in our estimate, we get money back. If we're too low, we pay more. Basically, that's it. Our experience there has been pretty good. We have one open claim involving a security card, and that's still ongoing.
So we have a minimal increase of about $7,000.
Right. And that's basically driven by the increased limits. Liability is about the same.
Parking receipts were down largely because people weren't traveling.
Right.
People still really aren't.
Could I explain just legally for a moment? What's happening next is that this approval is going to be recommended by the Audit and Finance Committee to go to the board. And so you will see this come up again in this meeting as a recommendation from the board. At that point in time, the board will adopt it, and it will become...
It's a good point. It's like we're doing things to double, but we're really doing it in committee. The authority board works in a committee process, and a lot of you are aware of that from other boards you might serve. Okay, so we'll talk about it in committee. Then when we bring it to the full board meeting, I'm usually gonna move that quicker, okay? Because we're gonna, if we gotta peel it back a little bit, we're gonna do it in committee, okay? I'm not saying, there could be a question after, but that's usually how we move, okay? Okay, any questions for John?
Hey, John,
Yeah.
can you take 2 seconds and give us some color on the pricing of property casualty and liability insurance, what you're seeing in the marketplace?
The marketplace is crazy. We're seeing increases. We didn't in our coverage, fortunately, this year on the self-insured portion, but we're seeing on commercial business 25 and 35% increases. And basically, it's driven by the past experience. Insurance is the companies that you see here, they only got a portion of it. They buy their insurance from other carriers. All the natural disasters, the fires, the floods, the hurricanes have taken enormous sums of money. I have no great love for these insurance carriers, but they're going to try and fix their balance sheets with the premium increases. Smaller, non-pop type operations, they're seeing not the 25 or 30% increases. They're seeing much smaller, generally under 10%, because the law requires the carrier to notify you if they're going to increase your charge by more than 10%. But your regular, large commercial enterprises are seeing horrific increases in costs.
So when we see our revenue coming in, our revenue numbers and our balance sheet and our financial condition, we should keep that in mind, that we could be faced with.
Yeah.
I mean, and the increase here is over 7%.
Right.
Yeah, so we are faced with rising insurance costs.
Yeah, and we will be for years to come. We're also faced with is a limited marketplace because of capacity. I mean, for our excess liability, there's relatively few. I can count on one hand, and we have 3 of them that are even willing to participate in booking the bet.
What John's referring to there on our general liability, we're self-insured for the first 1.5 million.
Right. And auto.
On auto, yeah, and then after that, we have secondary insurances that kick in, and it's a challenge every year to get somebody to even quote, considering that we're gonna pay the first 1.5, they don't even want the second and third piece, so it's a challenge every year.
Yes, it is. We've broken it into 3 different carriers, and it's been that way for the last couple of years. By not our choice. We had no choice.
Okay, if there's no questions for John, I need a motion to move it to the full board for approval. Motion, Robert, second. Monty?
So moved.
Hi, Darlene. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good. John, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Okay. Moving on, this is the time of the year that we talk about audit. Today we have Greg Evans here from Bonadeo to talk about the audit. Greg, what I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, why don't you come right, if you want to stand or if you want to sit, whatever you might like to do.
I'll say it's hard to fumble through these.
Okay.
So what we're looking at,
You should have a smaller bound copy on the front there. I'll walk you through that, which is a summary of all the documents that we have
We
here.
call this a draft audit until the board makes action or we drop the draft. So that's where we're at.
So I'm Greg Evans. I'm the audit partner with the Bonadeo Group. Those of you that were here last year got a break from me. We had Keely Hines here. Due to the public authority requirements for partner rotation, we sent Keely to RGRTA this year though, so just getting good transit experience.
the law requires us to rotate the auditor, the chief auditor, every 5 years.
Right. So not the firm, but
The firm, right.
the audit partner,
That's right.
so, but I'm back, so I appreciate being back. With me today is Tanya Budge, our manager who handles all the field work. Before I start, I'd like to thank Linda and Melissa for doing a fantastic job getting us through this. Everything went beautifully, and we'll go through that right now. In your packet, flipping over to page 3, we have some required communications that we need to make. One of which is, I will point out that the financial statements are yours, the numbers are yours. My job is to give an opinion on those numbers. That first bullet is our opinion, it's an unmodified opinion. This is a clean opinion, the highest level of assurance that we can give on your financial statement, so this is exactly what you're looking for. Bullet 2 talks about one of the changes that we had to make to these financial statements as a result of the Accounting Standards Board Statement Number 84. It really, in plain language terms, I didn't think we could complicate things anymore, but we managed to. We have a footnote that is, I don't know, 10, 12 pages long, detailing a lot of this information, but we decided we needed more. So what you have there is basically the assets of your pension funds are now presented in their own financial statement. All that information was there previously in the footnotes again, but now we have standalone statements that roll up all of your pension assets together and sort of detail out where your investments are and how those investments did. Again, a lot of that information was there previously, but this new standard wanted us to focus even more attention on that. So it's there. There's a couple pages that you'll note that are different from last year. There's combining schedules in the back that again show even more information. Take it for what it's worth. I guess more information is better, transparency is good, but we're sort of at overkill at this point, in my personal opinion. Okay, enough of my opinion. Moving on to page 4, we are required to point out that a lot of the numbers in your financial statements are based on estimates. The first one is retiree health. You have a liability of approximately $359 million. That's based on actuarial information. That's the amount that you are expected to pay out over eternity for retiree health. So that number goes up and down on an annual basis. We point that out to, just so you're looking at some of those changes and you're wondering, just based on healthcare cost and life expectancy, things like that. So generally estimates. Same thing with workers' comp and your pension plans, all based on estimates. Depreciable assets, that's based on the estimated useful life that's how we calculate depreciation. We also have to point out that the disclosures, in our opinion, are neutral, consistent, and clear. So, moving on, additional required communications. Had we had any problems with Melissa and Linda, we'd have to report that in this document.
They saved that all for me.
No problems with Brian either. I joke about it, but I've had to do this before. I've had to point out to people that I could not get information to complete my audit. So, while it seems, kind of benign, it does come up, and it is, again, kudos to the management team here for getting us through the audit. Second bullet there is really, really important. We did not identify any material adjustments that were made to the financial statements.
This I wanna just comment on, because this is amazing, because you're talking thousands of entries, okay? And I think this rises, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is.
Linda and team, let me tell you, good job.
Yeah, fantastic job. And again, this does happen, and when this does happen, we usually have a finding associated with it. So I'm happy to report there's no findings there. Those of you that serve on other audit committees, this is something you always want to ask. Hey, what were the adjusting journal entries? Were the numbers we were looking at during the year the numbers that appear in these financial statements? And that's, happy to report that is the case. Moving on, I put on page 7, there's a bunch of financial statement highlights in here. Most of them are, I'm not gonna hit on a lot of them. As you, get a chance to look at the financial statements, you can kind of come back to this and use it as a reference for some of those changes. I will point out that cash is up significantly at year end. In the past, cash was something that, quite frankly, was a concern. But things are looking better at this point. Let's see, let's move right on to page 9. So the OPEB liabilities decreased significantly, $26 million. And again, this is all based on the actuarial reports. So when I talked about estimates, this is where it shows up. So we think $26 million, wow, that's a huge number.
It's an unfunded liability where we hire actuaries to dig into this. Bonadale's not the actuary.
Oh.
We hire actuaries to, come up with that number. And it is enormous when you look at this stuff. And it's to make you aware, but we don't have money in reserve for that.
Right.
Okay? And if you look at this, if it's a public authority, municipality, school district, whatever, they're all under the same laws to report what this potential liability is in the future.
Right.
But it's not a funded liability. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, and it does.
it's created a lot of actuarial jobs.
Okay. Yes, yes, yes. So it does, it puts you in a negative net position because again, you don't have assets to match those large liabilities. I will point out that last bullet there though, current assets versus current liabilities. So that's a really strong position obviously to be in at year end. You're looking at $30 million versus only $5.5 million of liabilities, current liabilities at year end. Moving on to page 10. This is where, when we look at what happened during the year, again, the pandemic obviously had a significant effect on your operating revenues, down $8 million. However, the federal government came in and picked you up, increasing non-operating revenues, which is where the federal money comes in, by $13.2 million. So, that left you in definitely a better position than you could have been without that stimulus money. Okay, so that was a high-level overview of the financial statements. Some of the other audit reports that we have to issue start on page 11. We do our audit in accordance with government auditing standards, and we also are required to audit those federal funds that you receive. Again, two things we have to do here. We have to look at compliance, and we have to look at internal control over compliance. I'm happy to say we did not have any findings relative to either of those things. So, again, great job there.
And with internal control, as we reorganized the finance department, we had to be mindful of making sure that we had enough individuals to make sure we did have good internal controls. Yet I think we've brought the department also down a little bit. Linda, did we bring it down? Yeah, through that reorganization. So that's once again just ways we're trying to save, but we're trying compliance, and this is just a killer, and it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah, and along those lines, again, the fact that we're here, and able to issue these financial statements and these reports less than 90 days after year end is an accomplishment. We can't do that in most of our government type clients. We certainly don't do that at the county or the city, so, definitely something to be proud of. On page 13, again, a summary of those federal awards. The programs we tested as major this year was the Federal Transit Cluster. And again, no findings relative to that program.
Speaking of our federal program as well, we go through an audit, our triennial audit every 3 years. We just completed that one a couple months ago. And for the 6th triennial in a row, or 18 years, we scored 100. So it was a clean audit against that. Shows that we're using the federal dollars the way the federal government wants us to use them.
Page 15, New York State also requires what we call a single audit. And again, no findings there. Page 17, the Public Authorities Act also requires us to look at your investments and make sure that those are in compliance. Obviously not a lot of significant investments. Most, the New York State requires very, very limited in terms of what's allowed for investment activity. Page 19 is a quick update of accounting standards that will drive us crazy in the future. The second bullet there is leases, which is effective for March 31, 2023. To sort of summarize it, again, it's mostly just changing what we're putting on your balance sheet, kind of grossing up the right to use assets. In the past, we've, you ever heard the differentiation between operating and capital leases? We now just have leases. And basically what that requires us to do is record that as an asset if you're leasing something. And then, again, not a lot of changes there. We don't think it's gonna have a significant effect here, but it does require us to look at things a little bit different. So that was the very quick overview of what happened, you know, from an audit perspective. We'd be happy to take any questions that you might have. No, I think we're good.
Board comfortable because with everything here. I think it's a good audit. I want to commend Brian, all the way down Linda, the staff, and I have a lot of this finance staff right in this department, right in that area over there in the boardroom. We're very proud of everybody on how we did this year. And, you know, with the pandemic, it wasn't an easy year too, with sometimes hybrid working models. You know, we're in the office, we're out of the office, 6 feet from each other, 10 feet from each other, electronic, paper, whatever. And to be on time with the audit, wow, good job, the captain over there, Linda, who made the general.
Well, thank you, but it was also a team effort. It wasn't just Melissa and myself. It includes procurement, grants. So I'd like to thank Melissa.
Can you introduce
Yeah,
just
I was
to,
gonna- yeah, I was
who,
gonna do
what
that.
their positions are?
Melissa Brim, Director of Accounting. She actually ran the audit this year. This is her first year. Congratulations, you did a great job. Director of Procurement is Caitlin McCollum. Tara Spraker, she's Director of Grants, Contracts and Revenue Service.
Grants and Revenue
Thank
Contract
you.
Administration.
She has a front and backward business card, it's written,
And I don't think EJ's here, but EJ also played a role in that as well. So everybody did a very good job. The reason we have great audits is because of these people and their team.
Very good, thank you.
Greg will be seeing Caitlin and Tara and EJ, who is not here most frequently at the table, presenting, you know, various procurement and contracts that they bring.
A motion to accept the audit? Luella, second?
So moved, Darlene.
Second, Darlene?
Darlene?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
very good. Right, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks for all your
Thanks,
work
Greg.
and your staff and everything, so, thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Nice
Thank you,
job.
Tanya.
Okay, Linda, moving into the summary financial information section of PAL 2800 annual report.
Yeah, the summary financial information is basically the same information that's in what you just approved, our final audited financial statements. All I'm gonna do is take the information from our statement of net position and our statement of revenues and expenses and put it in the format that you need to put it into Paris. Per PAL.
What's Paris?
Paris is
Other
the
than the
public.
place to visit.
Huh?
Other than the place to visit.
It is
Public authority.
Public Authorities Reporting Information System. That's an application created by the ABO, the Authorities Budget Office, and the OSC, the Office of the State Comptroller. It's just a site where they collect all of our financial information and other information, governance, things in regards to our board of directors, salaries, our procurements, investments. Basically, everything that we're gonna be going through today is gonna be uploaded into this Paris system by June 30th per public authority law.
Our typical board meetings are the fourth Friday of the month. There's a few times throughout the year we move them to either avoid a holiday weekend or, in this case, move up a week so that Linda and her team has enough time to get everything into the Paris reporting system.
So motion two, is just for the board to approve me to upload that information into the annual report.
Okay, as stated, I need a motion to move that, PAL 2800. Motion. Okay, Monty, any questions? Second?
Darlene?
I got Anthony with a second. All in favor?
Darlene?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay.
Motion three is, up on the screen here. This is also required under PAL 2925.
Linda, could I just hold you for a second? This is what we're looking at.
Yes,
Yep.
we're going through the board A&F agenda. So on the screen here is the required annual investment report showing any accounts that we have that are interest bearing. We just need the board to approve.
Okay. Motion to accept the investment report. Monty, any questions? Second?
The,
Darlene?
All in favor?
also in this motion is the investment guidelines.
Yep. Okay. All right, moving on to, the PAL 2879 procurement report. Caitlin? Caitlin, right up here.
Yeah, I sat in the furthest corner away from the seat, sorry.
Okay. This is good for our health insurance, we're making
That's
people
right.
walk more,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Wait, before you start, Caitlin, just
Yeah.
so you're aware, this is compiled by Caitlin and her staff. Lorinda Maestri, this was her first year, was it, Kate?
This is actually her second year,
Second
but yeah,
year?
she took on a little bit more this
Yeah.
year.
So, this is a big compiled report that takes a long time. Just wanted to make sure I mentioned
Thank you.
her.
Great. Good morning, everyone. So this motion is to request approval for our annual procurement report. So the Public Authorities Law does state that we must submit an annual report of all of our procurement contracts, which is anything $5,000 and greater. So that very large, lovely looking spreadsheet that was in your board package is what we're speaking about right now. Yes. Does anybody have any questions on that report?
Couple minutes, you can take a look at it, review it. If you wanna go to bed tonight, before you go to sleep, read it.
Any contract is a multi-year contract, it shows you in there how much has been expended throughout the
Sure.
length of the contract.
It's a lot of activity, you gotta see. Okay, how about a, motion to accept the procurement report? Luella, any questions? Second, Monty? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Caitlin's also gonna go over the manual updates.
So this is a motion to request approval for our annual procurement manual. We needed a review and approval every year of our procurement manual. There were no policy updates this year. It was mostly just reformatting. We utilized the same template that our budget book utilized, so we could have uniformity in all of our finance department documents. In addition to the procurement manual, I am asking for an addition to our authorized personnel listing. So our manager of subsidiary operations, we're requesting they have a threshold of $2,500.
Just a comment on the threshold, I mean, is it, can we move it, it's usually 2,500 or?
We are adding that,
Right.
that title to the listing.
Okay, just wanna make sure, it's a lot of stuff.
Yes, it is.
Okay. motion on the procurement manual update? Robert, any questions? Second, Luella? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Caitlin, great job, like always. Linda, let's talk about disposition of property.
Yeah, motion 6 is another report that has to be uploaded into Paris and approved by the board. There's been no changes, this is for the guidelines regarding the disposition of property. All we did is put it in a different format, so it's consistent with all of our other policies. We just need the board to approve.
Okay, motion, Neil, any questions? Second, Monty? All in favor? Aye. Okay, very good. Moving on to resolutions.
Typically, your resolutions will be on different colored paper.
So we're gonna go to the resolution on the 22 annual subsidy payments. Linda, can you just talk a little bit about the subsidy payments, like?
Sure,
so everyone-
subsidy payments, these are not related to any accounting entries, it's just strictly on the approved budget, operating deficit, excluding operating assistance and MRT. And the purpose is just to reinforce the legal separation between the authority and its various central operations.
Okay. A motion to move this forward. Robert, any questions?
So moved.
Okay, second, Darlene, I'm gonna catch you at some point, Darlene. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Tara's here right now, she's gonna talk about the orange colored piece of paper, okay, which is a resolution to authorize service contract with the Onondaga County Department of Adult and Long-Term Care Services for call bus services, which is a busy, very busy
Yes.
operation.
This particular contract is a revenue earning contract, and what we do down in Colobus with this particular group is it's for seniors ages 60 plus, so they can move around Onondaga County in means and ways that they could not prior, whether it's to doctor's appointments, shopping appointments, or visitations that they need to make. I'm looking to ratify this contract back to the April 1 start date. Took a little while to get it into place, but we are good at a $401,000 revenue for 3 years.
Call bus is a great service that this authority provides for all the counties within the authority. Somebody any questions for Tara? Okay, if not, I need a motion to bring this forward.
So moved.
Robert, any questions? Second? Neil? All in favor? Aye. Okay, nice job,
Aye.
Tara. Nice seeing you guys too.
Me too.
All right, Linda, any other new or old business?
Just one more item, Susanna was gonna just report on her internal controls report.
Okay, Susanna, come on up. Susanna manages a lot of the internal controls here.
Not a lot of them,
It's a lot, it's all, so it's a lot, so she does a good job. Susanna,
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Susanna Sheard, I'm the internal control manager here. Typically, you'll see me in our governance committee meetings. This month, just coming to give you an update on the annual internal control certification that we have to do. Another one of those requirements under the New York State Office of the State Comptroller. Every single year, we are required to provide a certification over our system of internal control. This has to be done by our internal control officer, which is Chris Tuck. Typically, in addition to the other activities that we do under our internal control program, every year we do a specific deep dive review over all 15 areas of our organization. This consists of documentation reviews, internal control testing. So in addition to the internal controls over financial reporting that you heard about in the audit report earlier, this internal control report does cover every area of the organization, including operations down to customer service, marketing, every area that we have. At this point, the review is wrapping up. We've done all of the testing, all of the evaluations, documentation, all of that. We're just compiling the final report. We are going to certify in the Paris reporting system that you heard about earlier, and you will be getting a copy of the final report in the following month's board review. That was a lot of information. Any questions?
Any questions for
There's no
Susanna?
findings.
This is just
Oh,
for.
yes.
Go ahead.
And there were no material findings, so when we do go through the review, we look for different items that we maybe want to look into a little more closely, maybe we want to improve in some areas. So each thing has a risk assigned to it. Anything that has a material risk would be something that would constitute, if we uncovered a substantial fraud or, some substantial lack of compliance or a safety issue, something like that would be considered material. Those are items that we would have to report to the board and would cause us to not be able to certify.
So we have external reviews like we had from Bonadeo, we have internal reviews, okay, so there's a lot of things that people are looking at around here, so.
Yes.
So we have internal and external people looking at things too.
Yeah, so she's really reviewing all of our, we have, I can't tell you how many policies, but we have a lot of policies, so, it could be something as minor as your credit card policy and making sure that the people that are assigned company credit cards are following the rules, doing the right POs, getting the right approvals ahead of time. So it's taking all those policies and on an annual basis, making sure they're being followed.
Any questions for Susanna? This is just for information, there's no action on this, and, we'll be seeing her occasionally, mostly through governance. Okay, Linda, any other business at hand?
No, that concludes my report.
Okay, great report, great work, everybody, we really appreciate all your efforts. We're going to adjourn the Audit and Finance Committee meeting, we're gonna take about 5 minutes.